Today I'm going to explain a thriller crime movie called Girl in the Basement. The story opens with Sara and her father Don desperately rushing Marie to the hospital because she is struggling to breathe. Sara panics as Marie suddenly stops breathing and screams at Don to drive faster, fear completely taking over her. When they finally arrive at the hospital, Don coldly instructs Sara to stay quiet as paramedics rush Marie inside and attempt to save her life. Inside the hospital, doctors give Marie oxygen and work frantically, but the heart monitor soon shows a flat line. As the tension peaks, the story abruptly rewinds 20 years earlier, shifting to what appears to be a normal family dinner. Sara and her sister Amy are sitting with their parents, Don and Irene, sharing a meal that initially seems warm and ordinary. The mood quickly changes when Don reveals his controlling and oppressive nature. He forbids Sara from going to a party and asserts his authority over the entire family, creating an atmosphere of fear and obedience. That same night, Sara sneaks out of the house to meet her boyfriend Chris, while her parents later discover her empty bedroom, and Don angrily refers to her as a problem. At the party, Sara finally feels free as she dances with Chris and enjoys the night. Chris sings her a song he wrote just for her, and the two confess their love before sharing a kiss. When Sara returns home the next morning, Don has been waiting for her all night, leading to a heated argument where Sara declares that once she turns 18, she will leave the family forever. Later, Sara talks to her mother and sister about her dream of traveling across the country and supporting herself through work. Don overhears this conversation and retreats to the basement, where he reveals a hidden room concealed behind a bookshelf. 3 months later, Sara graduates, and during a conversation with her mother, it becomes clear that Don has been spending most of his time in the basement, treating it as his personal space. When Irene leaves the house one day, Don tricks Sara into going down to the basement to help him carry a box. He leads her into the hidden room, claiming it is a bomb shelter built by the previous owner. Suddenly, he locks her inside, and Sara screams in terror, but the room is soundproofed, and no one can hear her cries for help. On the 4th day of her disappearance, Irene calls the police, worried sick about her daughter. Don later visits Sara and coldly explains the rules of her captivity, telling her she must earn everything she receives, even clean, ventilated air. Before leaving, he takes advantage of her, while a police officer later tells Irene that Sara likely ran away for her planned trip, something her mother refuses to believe. Alone and terrified, Sara clings to memories of her time with Chris as the days pass. Chris eventually comes to the house, but Don lies and claims Sara ran away with a neighbor named Steve. 21 days into her captivity, Sara turns 18, and Don brings her a cake and a red nightgown, demanding obedience in exchange for simple requests like a clock. When Sara resists, Don beats her, reinforcing his absolute control. Nearly a year later, Sara discovers she is pregnant, and when her water breaks, she gives birth alone in the basement to a baby girl she names Marie. 4 years later, Sara becomes pregnant again, while Don continues to live a double life, one upstairs with his wife and daughter, and another underground with Sara and Marie.
Still worried about Sara's disappearance, Irene wants to hire a private investigator, but Don firmly refuses. As a twisted reward for good behavior, he brings a television into the basement, and later Sara gives birth to a baby boy named Michael. To comfort her children, Sara turns her horrifying life into magical bedtime stories filled with princesses and knights. Chris eventually returns to the house searching for Sara, and this time Amy tells him the truth. Together, they realize Don lied and discuss how cruel he has always been to Sara. Amy fears that her father may have killed Sara, remembering his violent temper from the past. As years pass, Sara has another baby boy named Thomas. Using calm manipulation, she convinces Don to take the newborn upstairs, claiming there is no room left in the basement. Thomas is left on the porch with a note supposedly written by Sara, asking Irene to raise the baby and pleading for help. But Don discovers the note and assaults Sara again. 14 years into captivity, Marie grows into a young girl, and one night Don shows inappropriate interest in her appearance. Sara begs him to leave Marie alone, but Don responds by cutting off the airflow to the basement. As Marie gasps for air, she expresses sadness about never having friends or seeing the outside world, unaware that Don is both her father and grandfather. Meanwhile, upstairs, Irene confides in Thomas about how much she misses Sara. In the basement, rain begins leaking through the ceiling, and Sara digs her way upward with a spoon, managing to signal for help. A neighbor notices and tells Don, who responds by brutally beating Sara, causing her to lose her unborn child. Don buries the stillborn baby and later praises Thomas for becoming a strong athlete, while blaming Sara for keeping the children trapped. Overwhelmed by guilt and pressure, Sara finally breaks down, destroying the basement furniture in a fit of rage before collapsing in exhaustion. Her children comfort her, and she decides it is time to tell them the truth. Sara reveals that Don is her father and also their father, and that their bedtime stories are based on her real life. Marie suffers a severe asthma attack upon learning the truth, but Sara reassures her children that none of this is their fault. As time passes, Don loses his job and attempts to kill the family by pumping car exhaust fumes into the basement, but Thomas unknowingly interrupts him. Eventually, Marie becomes seriously ill, and Don reluctantly takes her to the hospital, marking the beginning of the film. At the hospital, Sara seizes her chance, confesses everything to a nurse, and Don is arrested by the police. The basement is discovered, the children are freed, and the family begins healing as Don watches from the back of a police car. In the final moments, Marie, Michael, and Thomas play freely outside, while Sara watches from the porch with Irene and Amy. Chris arrives on his motorcycle, apologizing for not searching harder for Sara, and gives her a pink helmet he bought years ago. At last, Sara and Chris ride off together, finally reclaiming the life that was stolen from her.